Hi, fourth grade. Today we're starting chapter 13. Yay, exciting. Lesson 13.1 can be found in your Go Math book on page 497. So if you want to get there, the first lesson is perimeter. And our essential question, how can you use a formula to find the perimeter of a rectangle? So I'm wondering if any of you have a fenced-in yard. So how might you figure out how much fencing was needed to fence in your yard? So I just found this picture of a yard with a fence around it. So how did they figure out how much fence they needed to go around their yard? So today we will be learning about the concept, of perimeter and how to calculate the perimeter of a rectangle. So again, Go Math book, page 497. So let's get started on page 497. Go ahead and we'll unlock the problem. Julio is putting a stone border around his rectangular garden. The length of the garden is 7 feet. The width of the garden is 5 feet. How many feet of stone border does Julio need? Perimeter is the distance around a shape. So to find how many feet of stone border Julio needs, find the perimeter of the garden. And it's always a good idea to draw a picture of what that might look like. Now yours would just be a quick sketch probably, but this is kind of pretty. So as they said, width 5 feet, length 7 feet. So if this is 5, then this is 5. If this is 7, then this is 7. So we are going to use addition. Perimeter of a rectangle equals length plus width plus length plus width. So when you do that math, you're adding the 7 plus the 5 plus the 7 plus the 5. So I like to think in my head, 5 and 5 is 10, 7 and 7 is 14, 10 and 14 is 24. So the perimeter is 24 feet. Please get into the habit of labeling if it's feet or inches or centimeters, whatever it might be. So Julio would need 24 feet of stone border. Now that was using addition. You can also use multiplication. So in A, find perimeter of a rectangle. So when you use multiplication, instead of doing length plus width plus length plus width, you could do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So looking at our next example, our length is 12, our width is 8. So for your perimeter, you could do 2 times the length, which is 2 times 12, plus 2 times the width, which is 2 times 8. So when you do 2 times 12, you get 24. 2 times 8, you get 16. 24 plus 16 equals 40. So the perimeter of that rectangle is 40 centimeters. Pretty straightforward. Now when you find the perimeter of a square, because all the sides are the same length on a square, your perimeter equals 4 times one side. See, they're all 16. So you just have to take 4 times 16. So the perimeter equals, I'm going to do that work over here, 16 times 4, 64. So perimeter is 64 inches. Again, it's important, inches, centimeters. Make sure you label your answers. All right, let's look at 498, please. So, use a formula. Well, you might ask, what is a formula, Mrs. Drawn? Well, a formula is a mathematical rule. You can use a formula to find perimeter. And so when you have a formula, you use lots of letters to represent certain things. And then you just plug numbers into those letter positions. That's what a formula is. Letters are variables, and you can just figure out, well, what's the length? Plug it into where L is. What's the width? Plug it into where W is. And when you do that work, then you can figure out what is the perimeter. So, capital P represents perimeter equals, and they have this in parentheses because they want you to do this, and then they want you to do this, and then they want you to add them together. So the lowercase l represents length, lowercase w represents width. So the formula is capital P equals parentheses 2 times L parentheses plus parentheses 2 times W parentheses. And when you look at this, they're showing length and width. So, example, find the perimeter of the rectangle. Here's our formula. We need to plug our information in. So they're showing us here, length 18, width 14. Okay, so, excuse me, 2 times L, 2 times 18. 2 times W, 2 times 14. Now we do the work inside this parenthesis, 2 times 18. Well, 2 18s is 36. Then you do the work in this parenthesis, 2 times 14, 28. And then you add those pieces together, 64. So the perimeter of the rectangle is 64 meters. Always label, please. Now, number 1 is interesting here. It says, can you use the distributive property to write the formula another way and explain? So yes, we can. I can use the distributive property to write this formula because 2 times the width of the length, 2 times the sum of the length and the width is the same as 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So we can write this a whole different way. We can write this as, instead of doing this, we could do perimeter equals 2 times length plus width. So we could take we could even check that out. So 18 plus 14 is 32, and 32 times 2 equals 64. So let's go ahead and move on to the try this. Now they want us to write a formula for the perimeter of a square. So let's go ahead and continue to use the capital P for perimeter. And let's use a lowercase s for the length of a side. So remember a square, all 4 sides are the same length. So we could just say then P equals S times 4, with S being the length of a side. So justify the formula you wrote for the perimeter of a square. So if I were going to find the perimeter of this square, for example, and they're all S, I know I can do P equals S plus S plus S plus S. But instead of using addition, we know that addition and multiplication have a relationship. So instead of adding 4 S's, we can do P equals S times 4. Oops. All right, so now we have formulas to find perimeters of a rectangle and perimeters of squares. So let's go ahead and practice that skill. So this nice purple box is beautiful. It shows us the two different ways that we can show the formula for rectangle. Perimeter equals, you can either do 2 times the length and then the 2 times the width and add them together, or you can do add the length and width and multiply that times 2. And the perimeter of a square equals 4 times S. So in number 1, share and show, on page 499, find the perimeter of the rectangle. So we know we're doing 2 times L plus 2 times W. So over here, we've got length and we've got width. So we can plug in 2 times 8 plus 2 times 4. Then we do that 2 times 8, which is 16, and 2 times 4, which is 8, and 16 plus 8, which is 24. So the perimeter is 24 feet. You can see that by how the rectangle is labeled. Awesome. Don't forget to label, please. Let's go ahead and continue working on some more, 2, 3, and 4. So find the perimeter of the rectangle or the square. So they don't give us the formula now, but we know what it is. So 2 times the length, which is 16, plus 2 times the width, which is 4. 16, 4. So equals perimeter. 2 times 16 is 32, plus 2 times 4, which is 8. So perimeter equals 40 yards. Number 3, length and width. So 2, P equals 2 times 110 plus 2 times 42. You notice that's how I tend to do mine, but if you want to do 110 plus 42 and then multiply it times 2, you can. This just is a habit for me. So 2 times 110 is 220 plus 2 times 42, which is 84. And 220 plus 84, 304 meters. And now we have a square. So our square is P equals 4 times S. And the side is 4. So 4 times 4 equals 16 meters. So I'm going to give you some time to work on your own, and then I will give you some feedback. right, so on your own, number 5, 2 times L plus 2 times W. So 2 times 34 plus 2 times 20, which would be 68 plus 40, which equals 108 inches. Number 6 is a square, so you can do 4 times the side. So 116 times 4. 464 feet. Number 7, 2 times 42 plus 2 times 21. So 84 plus 42 equals 126 meters. Number 8, 2 times length, 2 times 63 plus 2 times width, 2 times 42 equals 126 plus 84, and 126 plus 84, 210 centimeters. Number 9 is a square, so we can do 4 times S, 23 times 4, 92 yards. Number 10, 2 times length plus 2 times width. So 2 times 133 plus 2 times 40. Oops. So 266 plus 80 equals 346. All right, so keep in mind those formulas when you're doing homework. Homework is in the homework book, page 247, and we're going to do the evens. So you do 2, 4, 6, 8. 2 on page 248, and all the spiral review. Have fun. Thanks.